Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for being here. Today we're doing a collab video with my good buddy from Moon Prism Studios.
Hey guys.
He will also have a video on his channel, this video, and it may or may not be edited differently. Who knows? It'll just be more to watch, right?
Right.
So as you know, I always have my notes, so don't be getting all crazy because I'm looking down. He's got notes, we've got notes, because you know what? My memory's garbage. So, and I want to make these points. So today we are here to talk about a wildly discussed, if not wildly argued topic.
Right, correct.
That we being OGs from back in the day of watching Sailor Moon on TV when we would have VCRs to record it. I know some of you people don't know what that is. Or it's way back technology. So
way back.
Here's the thing, we want you to hop in the time machine with us in the way back machine and
have an experience with us.
Have a moment, have a chat, have some coffee, have a talk, because this is and just to let you know, this is a no judgment zone here. We just want to present a thoroughly represented arguments on this topic because we feel it hasn't happened.
Right.
And, we are going to discuss the Dick dubs and Deek. A lot of people call Dick. Sorry,
that's what they say to make fun of said dub.
The Deek. I'm sorry. I'm okay. Terrible. No. But so many people have thought about this for so long, and it seems to be a really heated topic.
Yeah. And it has for quite a while, too.
Yeah. And, we just kind of want to present another side of this. We want to present a side that has not really been talked about, or we feel that maybe it really hasn't, people kind of forget.
And it might shed some light on, a lot of the different things that took place within the dub and why they did. And maybe people at the end of the video will have a different perspective. So just more so just shedding a little bit of light.
That's the hope. Shedding some light on this topic from back in the day that's stayed with us for so long. Yeah. So, all right. So and PSA, just warning, okay? I grew up with the Deek dubs on TV, the American version, and they will always be Darian and Serena to me.
100%.
I love agree. Their U.S. names.
I do too.
And we're gonna talk about some points on that too in a little bit. Just letting you know, I do love calling them Darian and Serena. So
I do too.
No hate, no judgment, right? We can all love what we want.
And we do understand, the original names are Usagi and Mamoru and, Makoto. We know that. We understand
We appreciate those too.
It's just that the original dub is very near and dear to us for reasons. And and before you jump in and say, you're looking through nostalgia glasses, or, it's just nostalgia, or it's because you grew up with it. No, every single thing that you could possibly say, we're already well aware of, and we assure you that is not the case. We have our own very specific reasons as to why we love this dub, and we're going to go over a lot of those with you guys today. So,
and we're willing to wager that we are not the only ones that feel this way.
100%.
Okay, so let's just jump into it, because honestly, I have to say the hate that the Deek dub
and the Cloverway as well
received, and the Cloverway.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, guys, but it's got to be said.
Right.
It's very anti-Sailor Moon.
It is. Especially given what the series, as well as the manga, represents. I just personally feel, for people that say that they're fans of the series as well as the manga, it's this is the last thing that we should expect to come toward any part of the series,
Yeah, totally.
Dub, sub, manga, whatever. And at the end of the day, whether this dub had its flaws, it is still a part of Sailor Moon and Sailor Moon history.
Exactly.
So.
And, let's be real. The original music for Sailor Moon.
Right.
Amazing.
It is amazing.
Still amazing. I have over 6 gigs of music for this stuff.
Right.
And I'm telling you right now, it doesn't matter where I am. if I hear Sailor Moon OG music, especially particular songs, I get emotional, y'all. It's like, I need a minute.
The DIC transformation for, I think it's titled Moon Crystal Power, which I know was used for Moon Prism as well, but Moon Prism, no pun intended. That one gets me in the feels all the time. I don't know, like, I love the original Japanese score from Moon Prism Power Makeup and, you know, all the other transformations, but that music, the way it was composed, just, I don't know, it has such a nostalgic feel, as well as a lot of the other soundtracks that were
It took
produced.
me a long time to get on board with Crystal's music. Right. And yeah, I know that was a lot to do with nostalgia, but also I love a lot of music. I love music all over the genres, all over decades, years, but it took me a minute because I was like, okay, I mean, I knew it was going to be different, but like now I'm cool with it. Right. Like, I do like the music, but there's just the feels of the OG series. It's just like, oh my God.
There's no comparison.
No comparison. And that's the thing that I just kind of want to point out about OG versus, we do have original, we have the manga, we have PGSM, we have SMC.
And the abridged version.
They're hilarious. Don't watch them if you can't take a joke, though. Right. But they are hilarious. We have the plays, and we have...
Which are fantastic.
Even the fan movies. Now, I give them props for trying. They're not amazing, but, there is one out there that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But, it's the fact that they came together and they did this.
Right.
Like, that's a lot of work. You gotta give them props for that, because that's not exactly easy getting multiple people on the same page for anything nowadays.
And just the amount of dedication that went in, the time and, dedication that was put toward that project, too. It's just, it's amazing.
And that's the thing, though. I think that's the thing that a lot of people forget, is that there's so many layers and levels and medians of Sailor Moon to enjoy.
Right.
And I think people, kind of either find one that they were introduced to, or one that they know, or their favorite one, and they just kind of, they really hold on to that. And that's fine. Love what you want. But I just, the hating on other people for loving what they love is just what gets me. And it's really kind of sad, because it trickles into other things. Like, I go to the conventions and I was cosplaying for years, and I personally took a step back from that because of the cliquish nature.
Right.
And not just in Sailor Moon, it's in anime in general. It's across all boards here. But it just is so sad, and it's disheartening, and what's really sad, it's not necessary.
It absolutely not. And the fact that, and I know this is something we touched upon, yesterday, but the majority of the fans that, watch the series or support the series, we're all adults. Mm-hmm. Very few. I'm not saying that there's not, kids or teens that, are fans or have heard of the series, but the thing is, it's next to none. Like, it's probably, like, some of the OG fans who got their kids into the series, like, those are probably more so the only kids that do know about it. But, I mean, we're all adults, so should we really be acting this way, especially when the series is all about love and just
friendship,
exactly,
just all
spreading
of
kindness,
the good messages that it promotes.
And whether the thing is, whether you like it or not, the original dub, the DIC and CWi dub together, the original dub, makes up one of the many shards in the mosaic that is Sailor Moon.
That's a great way of putting it. The shards in the mosaic.
Yeah, there's many pieces of glass in this mosaic.
And there are so many. And okay, kind of going off a little bit here on one of the things that gets a lot of hate is the debacle of the Senshi Scout Guardian Soldier saga. And I gotta tell you guys, are we really fighting over this?
Right. Because
they all pretty much, like, who cares what you call it? Like, calm down, take a Xanax, it's gonna be okay. Like, really, what, you were saying it all means soldier.
Well,
or Senshi.
Well, the direct translation of Senshi, which is the word that we hear in the original Japanese, is soldier. And I have a friend, not to go off topic, but a friend that studies Japanese thoroughly, and he even told me, just to kind of, get some reassurance, that it does mean soldier. So, the word scout actually does mean soldier. It is a military term. Mm-hmm. So if anything, I think what DIC did, or, DIC, what they did was, choosing that word, I think it's just a played down version for, like, the show was targeted at kids, obviously, but not that, soldier, wouldn't be okay. It's just that, they made it their own.
Right. They had to kind of water it down, like they did a lot of things, and we're about to talk about that.
But scout is not really that different than soldier. It actually means the same exact thing. And you can Google it, type in scout definition. That's literally what I typed in on Google, and that's one of the first things that pops up.
Isn't it just all about preference at this point?
Right.
I mean, who cares what you call it? We know what you're talking about.
They go by so many different names.
And putting hate on it for somebody, don't call it that. Well...
Or saying, I want to throw up because you say the word scout. Like, it's like everybody has an opinion.
Not cool.
Right. Everybody has an opinion, and everybody says it differently. I've heard guardian, I've heard scout, I've heard soldier, I've heard sentry. Like, at the end of the day, it's all the same thing. Like, is it really...
all love, man.
Right. It's really not that big a deal.
It's not. It's really, really not. And I think this kind of goes back to the whole idea that, when we're talking about the DIC dub and the Clover Way, it's gotten so much hate because of the changes and the alterations that were made. And I often wonder, do people think that they did this maliciously? Do people think that this was some kind of plot? Because I'll tell you, they had to change certain things to make it adaptable outside of Japan.
Right.
And I'd also like to point out, it's not just the U.S. that did this.
Right.
All the other countries did had their standards and practices and their guidelines that had to be adhered to, because you have to remember, folks, this was for children in the 90s.
Right.
Look at the heavy themes of Sailor Moon, and I'm talking the manga. Look at the heavy themes there. Do you really think kids of the 90s were gonna get that or be into that or be receptive to that or be ready for that?
I can tell you one thing right now is, I know that if the uncut version of Sailor Moon was airing on television when I was a kid, when I grew up with it, my parents would not let me watch half. I mean, just to kind of give an example, like the scene in the episode, I don't remember
when
what,
she's in
the bathtub and her cleavage is showing. Like, I know my parents would not have been okay with that. Or the death. Like, I understand, a lot of shows had death in them, but I mean, it's pretty graphic for what it is. But I mean, there's several examples. There's a lot of nudity, which I know, and I mean, granted, it doesn't show details, but it shows outlines of things.
Exactly.
Which, I don't think a lot of parents, and I even asked my sister, who is a mother, my younger sister, and I asked her her personal opinion. I said, if your daughter was watching the show like that, would you be okay with your young daughter watching something as graphic as that? And she goes, no, I would not.
Right.
So from another parent's perspective, that would not be acceptable. And so that is why a lot of those changes were made. But at the same time, it wasn't DIC that,
These are the guidelines.
They were laws put in place at that time, censorship laws that required things to be changed if they did not, if they were not socially acceptable, which, nowadays a lot of that has changed.
Exactly.
A lot of things are more socially acceptable than they were back then. But I mean, like I said, back then that was not. But I mean, that's just the way it was. And thankfully, and we do have a more truer dub. We have the Viz Media dub. We obviously have the original Japanese, which is great. But we personally feel like this dub should be given a bit more respect for what it did, because the fact of the matter is that without this English dub, I don't think it would be nearly as popular.
And would a lot of us have even discovered it?
Right. Not saying that you couldn't find it on the internet later on down the road.
But I mean, I think it was a special time that it came out.
Right.
I mean, I know for me, I remember finding it and just being so entranced with it.
Me too, yeah.
And it was a magical thing. It's like the first time I cosplayed Neo Queen Serenity, and I literally had people coming up to me crying.
Right.
Like, you don't get that kind of feeling from a lot of cartoons.
Right.
Okay?
There was something special about this show.
There really
this
was.
dub specifically. And
there really was.
I mean, I know I keep going back to it, but no, it was magical, and I know a lot of people, and I know there's a lot of you out there, have the same, you know, opinions and feelings as we do, and the thing is,
we know you're out there.
Oh no, and I just want to give a little shout out to Sailor Moon TV Productions on YouTube.
Oh my God, yes!
Huge fan. I've been subscribed to you for many years, and he posts nothing but, you know, content from the original dub, and that guy has over 10,000 subscribers. So for people saying that this dub doesn't really have too many fans, I beg to differ. And he makes amazing content, by the way. Huge fan. He's amazing.
So awesome. Big shout out to you, sir. Oh my goodness. But you know, let's talk about the voices.
Right.
We're kind of in that area.
Right.
Okay, so I am a fan of the DIC dub Luna.
Right.
I loved that kind of British sounding voice, and I'll tell you why. Because it gave her an air of authority.
It did.
Which for Luna, you need.
Oh, absolutely.
Because she's trying to wrangle the future princess, or the past princess, the future queen. The current princess, future queen. And I just, you know, look, I love the voice actors that do Luna and Artemis for Viz now.
Right.
But every time I hear them, all I hear is Rukia and Ichigo from Bleach. Now, there have been sayings that, oh, this is Rukia and Ichigo's way of getting together in another AU world. I'm like, okay, sure. Hey, why not? But to each their own. But, I mean, like, I loved the original Luna. And I, you know, honestly, I don't, you know, and with Sailor Moon's voice, I mean, yes, there were times that her voice was whiny and high-pitched, but you know what? You felt those moments.
Right.
There's a lot of feeling.
Right.
I feel in the DIC dub with all the voice actors.
Correct. Yeah.
That is lacking in the Viz, because there's times when because I'm actually rewatching all the Viz right now.
Yeah.
And
you're on season 4, right?
I am. I'm halfway through season 4, and I've got to tell you, you know, I give a lot of props to VAs. I know it's not an easy job, and I think, you know, for what they had to work with, they did an okay job.
Right.
But, I mean, when you go back and you have a comparison with the OG, it's like, wow, I mean, there's so much emotion, I feel like, or they're trying too hard, or something's not right. And this has nothing to do with nostalgia.
Right, no, absolutely not. Like I said before, we already know everything that could possibly be said in the comment section of this video, because we've done our homework, obviously, but no, it's like we're coming at this from a completely different perspective. It has nothing to do with nostalgia, or, oh, well, you're just very biased. No, it's nothing, you know, of the sort. It's just that despite all the flaws and the changes, it had heart. And the thing is, Sailor Moon herself had flaws. You can't deny that.
Yeah.
And that's what makes
Nobody's
the character.
denying that.
Oh, absolutely not. And that's what made the character, and it made it real. And to piggyback off what you said in terms of the acting, there's a lot of dub comparisons. I know, and not all of them are very, you know, some of them are, and some of them are kind of biased, but no, the one scene in particular, the scene where Darien breaks up with Serena. If you compare the two scenes, the Viz and the DIC dub, I'm sorry. I mean, no offense to Stephanie Sheh at all. I've heard her in other anime. Like, one of my close friends is a huge fan of a lot of her work and watches a lot of her shows, and she's amazing. But I just don't personally think in this scene, or, you know, quite a few others, it was her cup of tea. But Terry Hawks killed that scene. When I watch the scene in the Viz dub, it really does nothing. But when I watch it in the DIC dub, I have to pause the TV. I bawl my eyes out.
Yeah, but I do want to point something out. I was actually talking to with another friend about this. I said, what's interesting to me is that in the Viz, I feel a lot of emotion lacking, but then you go and watch SMC, and they brought it on that.
Right.
So I'm like, why is that? Like, that's, I mean, seriously, I've watched seasons 1 and 1 of OG and SMC, 2, 3, I'm on 4 now. So I've been doing this like within a week. So I have a very clear view of the comparison right now in
terms
my
of
mind.
like the acting.
And I gotta tell you, it's very much lacking in OG,
right?
But Viz, and then like you go to SMC and it's like, oh my god, like
they bring it
when they do, and when Sailor Moon jumps into the Phantom, and you hear Robbie Damon, like, you know, do Texas, like, Usa! Screaming for Usa. And then you hear Reenie's mommy. I get emotional, right. Y'all. I'm
no. Me too.
So see, this is what I'm saying. We're not here to, like, talk shit about the VAs. We know they work hard. We appreciate what they do. We're just saying from our opinion that it wasn't as emotional on OG, but in SMC they made up for that.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's like, absolutely they can do it. You know, it's just like, maybe there was a time constraints, which I absolutely know can happen. And, you know, I'm sure they were trying to get this out.
But also, I mean, it could have easily been from pressure too. I know in the beginning, as I mentioned yesterday as well, TOEI licensing was present during quite a few of the beginning recordings when they first started to dub the OG series. So they were in the room when they dubbed, just to kind of like oversee, you know, the recording and everything like that, which, you know, it's fine. But that easily could have been, you know, the reason. But also just the fact that the series itself is so huge and popular. I mean, that's a lot of pressure, even for new actors going into it. You know?
Absolutely. Nobody is, like I said, we appreciate the work that they did do. Right. It's just from our perspective, especially with the comparisons, it's hard not to notice.
Right. And as I'm probably not going to mention that, but oops. But no, just as someone who is very familiar with the arts, to listen to both dubs back to back, the delivery of every line in every episode, I'm sorry, but DIC and CWi killed it. And I will, and huge shout out to Linda Ballantyne, by the way, who took over the role for Terry Hawks, as a lot of you know. I think she did quite well, despite given the, you know, the circumstances she worked under, you know, and also the director at that time was also the producer of the DIC portion of the dub, and then she took over the role as director, which I feel personally, if Nicole Thual, I think I've mentioned her to you at least once or twice, if she wasn't the director, I feel like it would have been a bit better. But also the production of CWi was quite rushed. But given the circumstances she had to work under, I think she did quite well. Because I can tell you personally, I could not have done something like that. I would have been terrified. And I know a lot of you out there are critical of, you know, her work in Sailor Moon, and a lot of you aren't. A lot of you have actually changed your perspective, you know, after having met her. I've met her, and I mean, she's amazing. No, I definitely have mad respect for her as a person and an actor, because that is not easy. And I feel like she deserves a little bit more credit, considering what she went through. And I also don't, and not trying to be hateful or anything, but it's just a fact. Given the circumstances, especially being in that time era, early 2000s, I think it was, I don't think any of us would ever have the guts to step into that type of position and try and fill a role that was so widely, you know, established.
It's a lot of pressure.
Right.
Absolutely.
So to sit there and criticize someone that is, you know, able to garner their inner courage, you know, within themselves, which is what Sailor Moon does, and take the challenge and take the role and try and make it her own. I mean, mad respect to Linda Ballantyne. That takes a lot of guts.
Yeah.
So I feel like she deserves quite a bit of respect. She's a lovely person.
Well, I have only known what I know of her from you, and she does sound like a lovely person.
Oh, she
but
is.
It's funny, like I said, like going back to the DIC dub and just, you know, hearing it and the different levels of emotion that you get.
Right.
And you do feel it more. And I mean, there is a certain, yes, there is a nostalgia. I'm not going to say there's not, but there's also a real appreciation there too. And I think that's where a lot of people lose track. You know, it's like you can't just blindly say, oh, it's just nostalgia, because there's so many great things about, you know, every single medium of Sailor Moon. There's so many different things to enjoy and love. And, you know, it's just, it's the magic. It's the Sailor Moon universe, you know? I mean, so it's like,
it's a
why are we fighting about this? You know, it's like, there's really no reason to fight about it. It's just more to love.
Right.
And I mean, sure, you can have your, you know, I didn't really like this, I didn't like that, but, you know, there's this, I know we've both seen it on YouTube.
Right.
Where,
and other places,
you know,
too.
Well, yeah, you know, just people that have a certain ideal and they just glom onto it and they kind of attack anybody that doesn't think the way they do. And I'm like, why? It's so unnecessary. I mean, everybody has their preferences, and that's okay.
And that's what makes it. And the thing is, the good thing about that is that's what makes us human. I mean, we're all different anyway. Mm-hmm. So we're all going to have different tastes and different opinions.
And Sailor Moon totally celebrated those differences.
Right, absolutely.
So it's like, come on, be more like Sailor Moon, you know? Like, let's all just, you know, bring it together. Let's lock it up, bring it together. It's all about the love, man.
And I think the thing, I want to touch upon this too, and I think it definitely falls in line with a lot of the imperfections or flaws of the original dub, is that the character of Sailor Moon, as well as just the series, was one of the primary focuses, is that these girls were not perfect. They were very imperfect. And that, I feel like that's what made them so relatable, you know. It made the series
totally. So, I mean, fallible characters. Sorry, they you know, that's what makes them totally relatable. And you know, and it's just so funny because I'm about to start watching PGSM again because, you know, it's amazing. And it's so interesting. Yes, it's corny. I know.
It has its corny moments.
But the story is where it's at.
Right.
Y'all. Like, the girls are so different in that. Like, you know, like Ray and her dad, and like, you know, like Mina's so much more serious, and it's just like, like it's such a cool.
You see lots of Sailor V too.
Yeah, and let's also remember that, you know, Princess Serenity's pretty badass in PGS.
Oh, she's beyond badass.
It's like, ooh, okay.
That moment with the sword where she's deflecting all the, I love that.
She's just like, I will kill you all. You hurt my man, you're dead. No. Okay, that's not the greatest message in the world, but
no.
Hey, it's their love, you know. You gotta understand the backstory there. But yeah, I mean, like, I know there was some speculation about the voices in Viz because they had said that Naoko had approved all the voices, which I, for one, am kind of questionable on that one. I kind of question that because I'm like, okay, I mean, if she did, though, great.
Right.
Like, I you know, I kind of felt like that might have been Viz's way of being like, oh, hey, you can't say anything about the voices because, you know, we got Naoko to approve. And I'm like, yeah, but how did she approve?
Right, exactly.
That's a question I would have.
Because the thing is, and I mean, no offense to Viz at all, it's just that Viz has an undeniable habit of recycling a lot of their actors, and I feel like, you know, maybe they just went through said list of actors. Not, I mean, there were auditions, but
sure,
I mean, for all we know, it could have been through, you know, amongst the actors that they mostly work with on all their other shows. But the fact of the matter that Naoko Takeuchi, if you're watching, I love you, by the way.
We do.
You know, she's just so incredibly busy. I just do not see how somebody, first of all, who's married, has a family, and is incredibly busy, you know, writing and, you know, creating other stories.
Well, her and her husband are the super couple because he actually does.
He's a creator of Yu Yu Hakusho.
And also,
what was the other one?
Hunter.
Oh, right. That's true.
So it's like they're like super power couple.
But just somebody that is that incredibly busy, I just do not see them having the time to sit there and personally handpick voice actors.
I kind of wonder if it's more of the, hey, here's a list of these people we're going to do, sign off on it.
Right. And what they said, and they announced this at the beginning of the very first Viz panel before the new actors were brought out. But now they didn't go over this in detail until, you know, later on, but they said the way they did it is they sent auditions and each one was numbered and they had numbers, and she basically picked like one for the, like, it'd be like this many for Usagi, this many for, or I'm sorry, Serena. This many for Sailor Moon, this many for Mercury, and they would pick You know, but what amazes
That's interesting.
It is, but what amazes me is the fact that the vocal quality of a English speaking person and Japanese person is completely different. So how would she know that this English voice actor sounded exactly like the Japanese in terms of pitch?
Question.
You know, like, I feel like, and I may be wrong, but this is our opinions. I think Viz may have hired people, you know, listening, because it's one thing to listen to the Japanese and then find someone that sounds similar to match, but I just don't see it.
It seems like, it just seems like a little too convenient to say that. And honestly, she could have approved it in the sense of, like I said, here's a list of people, sign off.
Right.
I mean, because that would technically be her approving.
Her blessing,
so it's more of the, like, okay, how did she approve?
Right.
Like, and maybe we're overthinking it, but we think about Sailor Moon a lot.
Right.
So that would be par for the course. And, you know, kind of going back to a point that I've always kind of wondered about is another thing that people seem to get a little up in arms about is the names.
Right.
Okay, so Serenity. I really don't understand what the hate is about that, because let's be real, y'all. Queen Serenity.
Serena, I think.
Princess Serena.
Right.
These were their names on the moon.
Right.
These were their names in the manga. The Uncut. These are their names.
Right.
So why people don't like Serena is beyond me. And Darian's a sexy name, and Chiba means protector. Right. So, you know.
Well, Darian also means protector as well.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, but that's just like, and that's so appropriate. Like, for him. But, I mean, yes, again, this is the thing. Like, if you prefer the original names, that's fine.
Right.
But, like, don't hate on me because I like the U.S. names. Right. It's like, and honestly, Serena, again, that was her name on the moon, so it is accurate.
And as well as it has the same, if you Google the name definition of Serena as well as Serenity, it's the exact same thing. And I did, like I said, I Googled that earlier. Same exact meaning. So I feel DIC was onto something when they changed some of the names. It could have been Amelia for all we know.
Yeah, they did their research at least a little bit.
And the same with Mina. Mina, it even says, like I looked this up a few days ago too. The definition of Mina is love, as well as a short way of pronouncing Minako. It said Minako.
Yeah, Minako.
So that I think that was a very smart decision too. That always made sense
to me. Were you saying something about Ray, the different spellings?
Right. Ray. So the way that the character of Ray's name was spelled in the dub was R-A-Y-E, whereas in the original it's R-E-I. Well, the spelling of R-A-Y-E actually, you know what, I have it here. I have to go over my notes. Sorry, give me a second.
No problem. I just wanted...
Wise protector. And
that's very appropriate.
There were several times in the series where Ray gave her life and, tried to protect Sailor Moon. Countless times. I think that's pretty fitting.
Yeah, that is one thing I will say about the OG. Like, I will say that they really emphasized or exaggerated the kind of bickering relationship that Ray and Usagi had, or Serena, whoever you're calling her.
Right.
And I didn't, rewatching it now, it is a little cringeworthy at times. Like, you notice, like, ooh, like, she's very childlike, sometimes.
Well, especially
but then
in S.
You see, oh, yeah. And it's like she got a boost on the immaturity in S. But,
which is my favorite season, unfortunately.
I like it. No, I like it. It's just funny because you see, like, you think, oh my God, like, you see it, you see both sides of it with Ray.
Right.
Because it's like, yeah, I get it. Sometimes you want to smack her.
Right.
And then, like, other times, but then you see her just step up and, protect her. And it's just.
Be a leader at times, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's a beautiful thing. It's like, sometimes she's pretty cold. I mean, there's one episode where, like, Luna's like, oh, I wouldn't be surprised if Darian leaves you. I'm like, damn, Luna. Like, woo! Girl, I mean, she immediately was like, oh, I might have been too harsh. You think?
Oh, there was one episode where Ray actually, what was it? It was in S, which, we're talking about, but it was the graceful genius Michiru Usagi's Idol, I think is what it was called. I don't remember. I might have that
Vaguely.
butchered, but it's the one where
vaguely.
They go to the recital, and Usagi's wanting to play the violin and stuff like that. And she's wanting to learn what was it? Genetic engineering to impress Darien and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Ray says, and I'm going to jump to the original dub, the line that I remember, because I don't remember it word for word in the Viz dub, but if you're not smart enough for Darien, maybe you should just let him go. And it's just like, that's a bit childish, but it's a bit harsh.
Again, now that I'm rewatching everything, I'm noticing how they all kind of just like, they're kind of mean to her.
They are.
And it's...
Even Luna especially.
It's so refreshing in SMC because you don't have that whole kind of childish bickering, dynamic.
They're much more mature.
And it's kind of like a relief. It's like a sigh of relief for me because I'm like, whew. And, a lot of people have said, oh, there's no character development. Honey, if you want character development, go read the manga. Go watch the 200 episodes. You'll get plenty. Okay, go read some fanfics. There's plenty of character development in those. Okay, I mean, seriously, it's just I think that, SMC is so great just because it's with the manga.
It's a direct...
That's amazing.
Now, granted, there are a few things here and there that are slightly different.
Sure.
But, in terms of it being more accurate...
There's no BS. There's no filler. It's just right to the point. And I, for one, love that. And I think that could be a reason why the Viz voice actors in SMC
why it works so well, right?
Because they had to,
right?
They had to get in there and get after it, and I have to say they did.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, that's something we both agree on, like we mentioned before, is that we love the Viz actors in Crystal. It just works, and
it does.
I mean, like you said, it could have been the tone is serious. So it's like, okay, well, we need to be a bit more serious.
That's probably a good point. That's probably at least one of the things that happened.
Right. Another thing I want to touch on in terms of the voice acting, jumping back to that, is the way certain lines are recorded. And I know I've mentioned this quite a few times, but Viz has a tendency, I don't know if this is with every dub they do, like when an attack is called out or a transformation phrase, but I'm going to do a little comparison here. So in the original dub, every time... Moon Prism Power, Mars Star Power, whatever, or an attack was called, a transformation or attack was called, it was freshly recorded. Viz, and you might not have the ear for it, I don't know if some of you have noticed this or not, I certainly have, and there are clips of every single attack in the Viz dub, or every single transformation. The clip is exactly the same, the delivery is the same, so what they do, and Kate Higgins, who's the new voice of Mercury, has said, Viz has them record the line one time, maybe two times, one or two times, and they take one of them and they'll reuse it, and you can hear it. Whereas, like I said, in the original dub, it was freshly recorded. I cannot talk today.
I get like that.
But it had heart to it. There was a lot of work that went into that compared to... doing something like that. I understand, we're in the digital age, and with a click of a mouse, you can just transfer this audio clip to here. It's like, okay. True. But they put the work in the original dub, recording everything fresh. Yeah. And, I mean, I feel like the dub needs a bit of respect for that. I mean, there was a lot of hard work, especially given the fact that we weren't in the days of the internet, you know?
True.
So, I mean...
there's a lot of things that I think people overlook on the old school way of doing things because we're in such a mindset of instant gratification. Right. And that...
Technology is just at our fingertips.
It is. And it kind of makes us a little bit spoiled to it. So, it's like we have to... I mean, again, it's not about nostalgia. It's about appreciating the work that went into it. Appreciating, these emotional moments that come through so much harder, that hit harder.
Right.
And, especially like I said, I'm literally rewatching this. So it's like, ooh, and it's funny because I actually pointed this out to you because Viz said that they were doing the Viz OG remake dub here.
Right.
Okay. Right. Like the uncut. Okay, but it's funny because when I started watching all those, the very first episode, Usagi's encounter with Mamoru, let me tell you, it's very interesting to me that I believe, what is it? In the Japanese, I believe he calls her Bunhead. In the American, he calls her Meatball Head. And then
the original dub, it was Meatball Head.
The Viz, he calls her Bunhead. Which, by the way, sounds like Butthead if you're not listening.
Right.
So
well, it's Odongo, which means dumpling head.
Yeah, Odongo. Yeah, and that one's been used too.
Odongo atama.
But it's just funny to me because it's like, that was a glaring difference to me.
Right.
I was like, wait a minute. Like, that's not accurate. It's different everywhere which way.
And we do understand there's multiple translations, but, you know, the most accurate would be dumpling head.
Well, I'm actually comparing this up against the Japanese uncut.
Right. No,
and
absolutely.
And they also, I noticed some of their other interactions, they change things like we either completely add something to it or take away from it. Like, I was just like, wow, okay, so this isn't exactly to the uncut. So.
And I'm gonna piggyback off of that. Like, I was reading a few comments on a YouTube comment thread a few days ago, and no, there was somebody that made several valid points that Viz, yes, while it may be more faithful in several ways, and, you know, at least maybe, I don't know, 90%, there's a lot of stuff that makes the dub actually Viz did a bit of censoring. Like, I know there's some words that should have been used that weren't put in different episodes. Umino or Melvin. I like
He'll
Melvin.
always be Melvin to me.
Right.
And Molly.
Threw in, like, actually, let's see.
And I gotta say, I always liked Molly's accent, too.
I did, too. I thought that was a very creative choice.
I loved her accent.
Mary Long is awesome. She's awesome.
It's so great. Just had to slip that in there because I was thinking about it. Because it's like, oh, Serena. Like this, like, kind of like almost nanny type Jersey almost vibe. I'm like,
that Upper East Side
get
accent.
it, girl. Yeah. And I'm just going to also say I was never a fan of the Nephrite Molly shtick. I never was a fan of that, sorry. I know a lot of people are, but
right.
That, and then when she found out he was evil, and she's like, oh, but I still love him, and I'm like, girl. No. I was like, no, but as I rewatched it again, I'm like, it annoyed me then, it still annoys me now. I'm like, no.
But no, like, something I wanted to point out is that, you know, the Viz dub is not entirely accurate or uncut because there is the episode, I think it's where Ami shows up and they're like, they see her walk across and they're like gossiping and then they're going over rumors about her, and Umino throws in a over 9,000 joke, which was not in the original. You know, that was not in there. That's one example.
Right.
And the thing is, it's like, where is it? Give me a minute. Umino was supposed to say something else, and obviously they didn't add whatever was, I don't remember it, but whatever was said in there was not, you know, in the dub.
I believe it.
I don't think they, in Japanese, they crack an over 9,000 joke. I mean, you gotta understand, there are plenty examples of Viz not technically being 100% true.
Sure.
You know, they made quite a few changes, and while they do fit in well with the dub, they aren't 100%.
Right.
You know, like,
it was kind of shocking to me that I remember them, you know, saying it was going to be just like the uncut, and then I saw that first glaring difference, and I was like, oh, what?
Right.
But you know, then you think about all the names he did call her, and you know, to go to that point, to go off of that point, let's talk about Darian in the '90s OG. Just for a second.
Uh-oh.
Yes. I will be the first to admit Darian was a jerk. He was a big jerkhead. So, but you know, we have to kind of come back for a second because I was actually thinking about this. Maybe it's now that I'm older. I was like, let's think of the reasons why. You know, and again, I want to preface this by saying I'm not making excuses for why he was the way he was. Right. I'm just saying, let's think about this for a second. You know, we think about this guy lost his parents at 6, 7, 8 years old.
Very young age, right?
Lost his memories. You know, he's alone in the world, literally. And he's having dreams that make him think he's losing his mind.
those dark premonitions.
I don't know if I would be too sociable either.
Right.
I'm just saying. Again, not an excuse, just the reasons. I just think it's funny because this is just, and here's the other thing why I believe that they did it the way they did. Because you have to remember that in Japan, for those of you who are not aware, the age of consent is 13.
Right.
Now, they have changed it, I believe, to 16 in the major cities, but that is the rule.
Right.
So you have to think about this because we also know that Darian was also a college student.
Right. He was 17 and was a college student.
But he's a high school student in SMC.
Right.
And in the manga.
Right.
So, to me, I think they did this as a way to keep them distance in their relationship, keep it G-rated. Because they had to have this kind of contention there to kind of keep them apart, you know? I liken it to Boy Meets World, how they always had Topanga and Corey, like, always, having these moments of separation because they waited till they were married to get, have sex, which is still a nice thought. Right. I mean, I know it's unheard of nowadays, but it's not so terrible, y'all.
Right.
So it's just funny to me because it's like, they had to do these things.
Right.
So I kind of feel like they upped his jerk factor to make it like, because she was very immature and it was a very kind of,
she was a middle school girl, yeah.
Yeah, well, middle school also means something different in Japan than it does here too. So there's a lot of, things there that I think people maybe didn't realize or think about or know. And again, this was a cartoon targeted towards kids, the after school crowd. Right. And again, to your point, your mom probably wouldn't have been okay with some of the things. No, and
like I told you, the other day, I also watched it on Toonami, and the thing is, when I caught it on Toonami at 4 p.m, my little brother would have his Cub Scout gatherings, and there was other parents there, not to change the subject, but
I get it.
No, there were other parents present, and that show would be on in the living room, and I don't think that, if some of the things that were shown in the series were on the television, I don't think half the parents in the room would have agreed with it.
Right.
So, I mean,
again, it was altered everywhere, not just in the U.S.
The Korean dub. Let me talk about the Korean dub just for a minute. So a lot of people complain about the censorship of the transformations. Now, Sailor Moon's, I know a lot of people say hers was censored. It wasn't, because Sailor Moon's didn't have any body lines, even in the original Japanese. It was, from Mercury all the way to, Pluto. They all had body lines in their transformations. But, DIC and, I believe Cloverway removed the body lines. But if you think that that's an issue, I mean, just be thankful we got the whole entire transformation, because in Korea, they took little bits and pieces. Like, if you watch, I don't know, search on YouTube, Moon Prism Power Makeup Korean version, or any of the transformations, Sailor Moon specifically, I've shown you, they took a scene from the Japanese opening, I think it was from R, and inserted that in the middle of the transformation, and it's just like, you have all these random clips, and then that's what they had for a transformation. It's completely obliterated the transformation. So you want to complain about censoring the transformations? Look at the Korean dub.
Right.
I mean, that was butchered.
You want censor.
Right.
I mean, yeah, like we keep pointing out, there were things changed everywhere.
Right.
And, but the messages always were applicable to life of Sailor Moon. The messages, no matter how silly they tried to make some of them.
Right.
But they were always applicable. And I think the message always stood the test of time, because there are so many people in the world that were affected by Sailor Moon, no matter what version you like.
Right.
And I think that's what the heart of it is.
The magic of Sailor Moon.
It is magic. It is. Like, I don't care. Like, I know that's a cliche word to use, but it's true.
The show just has heart. The series in general has heart.
It does. So. But I am going to talk about one of my biggest pet peeves.
Shoot.
From, seriously, one of my biggest pet peeves is the complete, how effeminate Zoe was.
Oh, Zoe Stark, right.
The OG Sailor Moon.
Right.
Now, I can remember before I knew anything about a manga, before I knew anything about anything, just watching OG back in the day,
right.
I can remember being very confused by that whole situation.
And this isn't necessarily the... Are you talking about the part where the character was just feminine, or do you mean like...
I mean the whole thing about Kunzite and Zoisite and being very confused on, is that a woman?
Right.
Is that a man?
The change that they made from making him a male to female.
And I really don't understand that, because everybody makes such a hullabaloo about Maru... wrong name.
Whoa.
Wrong anime. Michiru and Haruka.
Right.
Not having their relationship clearly stated. And it is kind of crazy, because whoever made this decision with Kunz and Zoe really confuses me.
Right.
Because that was not in any original content.
Not even in the Japanese.
Nothing.
The Japanese... I mean...
So why would you make this kind of weird situation here, but you wouldn't state about Haruka and Michiru?
Right.
And so that's kind of weird to me. But I just remember being really confused by that. And then when I found out, like, the backstory of Kunz, I was like, he's supposed to be with Mina, and Zoe's supposed to be with Amy. This is not even accurate at all.
Right.
So whoever made that decision, that is one thing in the DIC I really just... I don't understand. I just remember being so confused by that.
But even in the original Japanese, I mean, it's the same way, because in the original Japanese, yes, they're lovers, but... Mm-hmm. And this is something else I want to touch on that piggybacks off of your topic here, is the fact that a lot of people were very anti, Zoisite's a woman, and, Kunzite or Malachite, whatever you want to say, is a man. Oh, it's a straight couple. They censored the relationship. Well, technically, in the original, in the manga, they're not lovers at all. And so that change was, it
was unnecessary.
Right, it was. And
I just didn't get it, especially when they would deny Haruka and Michiru.
Whereas in Crystal, they're not lovers at all either, because that reflects the manga. So it's like, technically, you want to, complain about it not being the original content. Well, the original Japanese and the original Sailor Moon wasn't following the manga either, because they weren't lovers in the manga.
Yeah, I think it was always alluded to.
Right.
But, honestly, to each their own.
Right.
It's just, but I never understood that decision.
Right, and I didn't either.
And it's also kind of like with Fisheye. Like, you remember, like, very effeminate, and I always thought that was a woman.
I did, too.
And, and then, what is it? I'm rewatching the Viz dub, as I said, 4, and you have Master Zirconia, but you have Madam Zirconia in 4 of the... I'm like, why did they change that?
Right.
Like, what? Girl power, I guess. okay. I guess that's the only thing, but it's just like... And, gendered fluidity, I understand that's a big, that's... everyone to each their own, but it just, I didn't really get that change either. I was like, he was a guy, wasn't he? Like, seriously, it's messing with my memory, and my memory's already shot. Don't do that. Like, that's all I'm saying. I can't keep up. No.
No, I agree. There's a lot of changes that were made that weren't really necessary, and I don't think anybody's gonna ever, know why they were done, but
it's like just all these weird changes. I'm like, and seriously, I think I'm losing my mind, because I'm like, wait, wasn't that a guy? Like, I literally had to go back and look. I was like, okay, I'm not crazy yet. I was like, seriously, they're messing with my memory, man. Like, that's the main thing. But yeah, like I said, like, to your point, there's so many things that are different between OGSM, SMC, the manga, the plays, PGSM. There's so many. But that's the cool thing about it, because we have so many mediums to enjoy. And I love that, because, again, considering the heavy themes in the after-school, kiddie, 90s kids, I don't think the parents would have been cool with it. I don't think so either. I think there would have been a lot of maybe backlash. That's probably, and then, the guidelines at the time were different, and just all of the things. And again, it was not just the U.S.
Right. But also, I mean, like, you know, like what we mentioned before, when we talked about yesterday, is the fact that the English dub from the 90s wasn't just airing in the U.S. It aired in every single English-speaking country. I don't know where that came from. Country.
It happens.
Canada, Australia, the UK, like all these countries were exposed to that dub. Mm-hmm. So just imagine if that dub, I mean, because
hadn't happened.
Right. There would be not nearly as much exposure. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I
think the question is, do you think, like, if the DIC dub had not come out, do you think a lot of us even would have known about it, found out?
Not nearly as much.
Seen it. And I think it was a special time when it came out on TV.
I think it was, too.
Like, I think it was one of those kind of moments in TV history when, like, because you look back at certain, like, sitcoms now and you think, oh, my God, that would never make it in today's PC world, you know? But, God, like, okay, like, Married with Children, one of my all-time favorites. That would never make it today, but it is one of the best freaking sitcoms out there. It's still hilarious to this day. And I'm just saying, like, there are just times in history when things hit just right. And I think Sailor Moon was one of them.
Oh, absolutely.
And, you know, you really just, you know, it was that, I mean, seriously, I still have VHSs that I recorded. Like, and I have it written out on nice of the little moon, Sailor Moon. Like, I have them in my closet.
I have my DVDs.
I don't have a VHS right now. I'm trying to get it fixed because I don't have the heart to throw it away.
Right.
Because, like, but seriously, like, I remember being, like, so excited and writing out each name of the episode, like, on a little card.
Yeah.
I mean, like, dude, it was the most best part of my day.
Right.
Like, record, let's watch Sailor Moon. Like, I was all about it. Like, there was just a magic to even that.
There was.
It was like, 'cause kids today will never know what
and
that's
also,
like.
the other thing is that dub was the only version to ever air on television. The Viz version, which that was something that disappointed me about the distribution, you know, that Viz, the way they distributed the series is that it just went straight to digital and video. They didn't air it on TV, which a lot of their shows are on Cartoon Network, you know, Toonami and Adult Swim, and but they never aired it on TV. So in another way, that dub is special too, because it's the only one to ever air on television. Mm-hmm. So
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty special in a lot of ways.
It is.
And, you know, we just wanted to kind of show love for it because, honestly, you know, yes, there were things that were changed. Yes, it was culturally biased, some people have said. And, you know, but those things had to be altered. It's not like they were done maliciously.
Right.
It was more of a get this to the people.
Right.
I mean, because the message still stood. It still remains today. And it's touched so many lives. And I mean, just think about how sad our lives would be without Sailor Moon. I mean, come on. I mean, that would just be tragic.
Right.
So, I mean, it's more of the fact that, like, with all the medians to love, I mean, seriously, why are we fighting about this?
Like,
it's
why?
like, why are we getting down to the nitty-gritty little details? Because, again, I'm going to say this. This is so anti-Sailor Moon.
It is.
It's like you are literally bullying other people for not liking or disliking a certain thing that you dislike or like.
Right.
And she would not stand for that.
Absolutely.
And neither should you.
Why did she in the name of the moon?
I mean, it's just like, it's such a magical property.
It is.
And, you know, I don't want that message to get lost in all the static.
Right.
Like, you gotta, like, just take the good with the bad. And just remember that, like, you know, there's already so much to fight about in this world.
Right.
Why are we fighting about Sailor Moon?
We should be celebrating Sailor Moon, you know, sharing our love of the series, which is, you know, that I know that's something you and I do all the time. Mm-hmm. But I feel like that's what we should be doing, not hating on other people because, oh, they like this dub, or they like this name, or they like this, you know, term. Like, you know, like, just, I don't know, give them a thumbs up. Be like, yeah, that is a part of Sailor Moon.
I mean,
you like it, that is awesome.
This video is about bringing the Sailor Moon community together versus tearing it apart.
Right.
Because there is already enough division in our world. And if there's anything that we can agree on, that we do love Sailor Moon. And whatever version, whatever part of it that you love, That is what matters.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, seriously, guys, like, let's just all take a step back and remember the message of Sailor Moon, because that's the key, y'all. And that's all we're here to say. It's no big deal what you like. If you love it, if you dislike it, great. But let's keep the love in Sailor Moon, because that's what she's about.
Absolutely.
She would never stand for such disparaging. Well, those are my points. Did you have anything else, David?
I did want to, let's see. Sorry.
It's okay. I do this all the time. My viewers know that I love my notes. My brain, my memory is not the greatest on some things, like when I'm trying to keep it all in check.
I think we might have already covered everything.
I think we did. And that's pretty cool. We did well.
I think we did. High five.
High five. In the name of the moon, we deem this video done. And we hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe. Can't talk to movies and stuff. Moon Prism Studios. And we might do another collab video. I don't know. All this has brought up a lot of stuff about Sailor Moon. And there's so many facets and things to talk about.
It's a very multifaceted property.
Yep. We have the Marvel Universe, and now we have the Sailor Moon Universe.
Right.
Hell yeah, y'all. So, hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe to both of our channels. See you next time.